All right, section 3. This is the meat and potatoes of the RPA. This is where we put all of the terms in here. So this one's going to be section 3. I think we'll go all the way through F, and then I will do the other portions in the next video. So this is pretty straightforward. 3A is just the purchase price that we're offering. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and say we're offering $450,000 on this. So I'm going to punch that in numbers, click the box, and it's got it in there. Sorry, that popped in. Close of escrow. I don't recommend that you just click this box and put 30 days. I know that's what most agents will do, is they will just click a box and go, okay, this is a 30-day escrow. What I want you doing, because it's a better way to do things, is I want you to pick an actual date. So just look at the calendar. In this case, I've got, let's see, today is the 15th. So if I'm looking about 30 days out, I'm going to look to see what is 30 days out. And I already know without even looking, I'm like, wait a second, Valentine's Day falls right in there. That's not a major holiday. I don't expect a lot of people taking some time off, and it falls on a Saturday anyway. So what I like to do is I like to pick the nearest to 30 days, and I like to pick a Wednesday. The reason I pick a Wednesday is if it closes a little bit early, you're fine. If it closes a day or two late, people aren't upset about their moving trucks, or they really wanted that weekend to move out or move in. So I like to pick a Wednesday as a target date. We want to explain to our clients as well that these close of escrow dates are target dates, that very rarely, if ever, do properties actually close on the day that they're scheduled to. Now, if there had been a major holiday in here where I know that most of the country is going to shut down for 3 or 4 days, I would probably push that out a little bit further. And you want to start with kind of that original amount of time. So if you were going to do a 45 day or a 60 day, keep those things in mind. Look to see what holidays fall within your escrow time frame too, because those are times that are difficult to get inspections done. No one's working at escrow. Maybe it's hard to get a hold of the lender. Keep those in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and put the 18th here, just because that's very close to 30 days and it's a specific day, so that we're not getting in fights or arguments later on about which day we were supposed to close by. All right, expiration of offer. The default language, if you don't put anything in here, is that this offer expires in 3 days. Well, what does that mean? It simply means that if it's day 4, day 5, and the seller does decide to accept this offer beyond that, that the buyer now has to confirm and acknowledge that the seller has accepted their offer and the buyer still wants to move forward with it. Otherwise, they're not bound by anything in here. All right. So I'm going to leave that blank. I'm going to leave it as a 3-day offer. Sometimes people will want to tell you, hey, you got to answer me by tomorrow at 10 a.m. I don't find that that's very good practice, trying to put pressure, or at least not in this market. This is still very much a seller's market, trying to put pressure on a seller to accept any sooner, but you can. Initial deposit amount, traditionally, it's usually somewhere around 1% in our areas. So I'm going to go ahead and put $4,500. There's no requirement that this be 1% or that it be any exact amount. The only thing is you must put something here. You can't just leave it blank or put 0. For this contract to be binding, there has to be consideration. Consideration means that one person is giving something to someone else and they're giving something back. Now, the purchase price is consideration, but that earnest money deposit is a crucial part. So I'm going to go ahead and put 1%. Whoops, not 45,000. And then how is this deposit going to go in? Within 3 business days. So once this offer gets accepted, we have 3 days for my seller to take their cashier's check, or however they're depositing funds into escrow, down to escrow. And the default language is also that it's by wire transfer, or here I could put in that it's, I don't know, cashier's check. So if they're doing something other than a wire transfer, you check the box and say how your buyer is putting that in. Increased deposit. You rarely see increased deposits except for when, usually these are tied to things that are going to happen, kind of milestones in the transaction where perhaps the seller is going to do something to the property at a certain point, kind of irreversible. They're going to want to see that the buyer's really locked in and is buying this property. If they're going to do that, you would use this increased deposit. You would then use the form IDA to say whether or not that increased deposit is considered earnest money funds, because that's a special legal term. That means that those funds are going to be released to the seller if the buyer defaults. So you can increase the deposit, but it's rarely used. Loan amount. This amount is how much the loan is going to be. So if we're going to say that this is conventional, because the default language is conventional, I'm going to say that it's, I don't know, $400,000 is the loan amount. It's going to calculate, sorry, that's 40. It's going to calculate what that percentage is. But remember, these terms can change. The purchase price can be negotiated back and forth. So this is not a binding thing. It's just an estimate to see roughly what that is. Is it a fixed rate? That's the default language. Or is it an adjustable rate loan? If it's adjustable rate, you'd need to check that box. This language does not have to be filled out, but it can protect your buyer. So let's say that my buyer was quoted that they were going to get a 6.5% rate. I could put 6.5%, and then I can actually use this as a means of getting out of the contract if my buyer can't get that. So if we wrote this saying that my buyer was going to get a 6.5% interest rate, and the best he could do is a 6 3/4, my buyer could say, well, I'm not moving forward because I didn't get the rate that I was quoted originally. If it's FHA, VA, so forth, you'll check these boxes. You'll need the FVAC form if it's one of those. If it's seller financing, you would check this form. It'll add the seller financing form. Basically, you're just telling the seller what kind of a loan you're going to be getting. If you are FHA or VA, you will be delivering a list of the lender required repairs to the seller within a certain amount of time to let them be able to do those repairs. 17 days is the default to deliver a list of any repairs that the lender is going to require. But oftentimes we have a 17-day inspection contingency. So you might want to make this like 21 days so that all reports can be completed and got back to you. Or it's whatever number of days, you just fill it in there. But I'll put 18 days here because in this example. E2, additional financed amount. If you had a second, so if you were getting a first and a second, you could put multiple loans here. Perhaps I'm asking the seller to carry back my 40,000 of it as a second. I could put here that the seller's going to carry back a second 8.5% seller financing. There you go. That's how you would do that. It's going to automatically calculate down here in F the balance of the down payment. And then if this is not your buyer's primary residence, if they're buying this as a second home or as a rental property, you would check these boxes here. Now, one thing I want to point out here while we go over section 3 is this grid format is really nice because it puts all of the main terms of our offer in one spot that's easy to read. You'll notice that it has paragraph numbers below it: 5, 5B, 32A, 5A1, 5A2. If there's any confusion about what these mean, you can jump to that paragraph. So on this loan amount, it's 5C1. I can skim down and find 5C1 in the language portion. So here's 5C1, first loan. This loan will provide for conventional financing unless FHA, VA, seller financing, or other is checked in paragraph 3E. So if you have any questions about what you're actually, signing there, you can go down to the appropriate language. And we will cover all of that language in future sections because I think it's really important for you to know what this document says that you're having your buyers sign. So there you go. That's section 3.